is for a normal person. But after Second World War, that clinical psychology becomes so important. But now people are coming back to the psychology is for a normal person. So today you are going to teach us positive psychology. This is going to be very, very, it will be very interesting for everyone who are listening. That is, I would like to say with you. So now
I understand that you teach your students about positive psychology as well?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, we teach, and positive psychology also we teach. And clinical, that's CBT and all also they have a background. They'll be knowing that. And all my friends and all my students, all the faculties, we are waiting for you, ma'am.
Yeah, so whenever you're ready, we can start, and we have 1 hour, huh?
Yes, ma'am. If you want, you can take longer that also. We are free to do so.
Yeah.
After your lecture,
I see some faces still. I see you, of course, but I also see some participants. I don't know if you want them to have because I see their faces now in the menu. Should they switch off their cameras?
I think they have switched off. Only you and I think our vice chancellor, you and I.
I see some more faces. I see some more faces.
Is it so? Where?
So maybe you should ask them to just switch off their cameras.
Yeah, okay. All right. So participants, kindly switch off your camera. That is stopping the auditory functions of this. Kindly switch off. And if you have any query, if you have any such kind of questions, you can type in that Q&A. So after that's Madam finish her lecture, then you can ask the questions.
We don't have time for that. But they are invited to ask their questions through email.
All right. Okay.
They can send questions to email, madam. No problem.
Very
because
good.
madam,
yeah, no problem.
Madam, time is very precious. No, she has to leave at 1 hour after 1 hour. So
right,
and they can email tomorrow. Yeah. So you can start, madam. You can 6 o'clock. You can start.
A very short introductions I would like to give. Okay. Sure. Yes.
Let's start. That's okay.
Very short introduction. So Dr. Frederick Barning, she's very, very famous all over the world, and she's a CBT trainer and supervisor, and she's a very famous clinical psychologist and lawyer, and she's international speaker, trainer, and she wrote a number of books, and more than 50 books she already wrote it, and she has her own website that is frederickbarnick.com. You can visit her, that's her website. And she got education from University of Amsterdam, and she specialized in a clinical psychologist, child and youth psychologist, and she also specializes in the dispute resolutions. And she is a behavioral therapist, cognitive behavioral therapist she is. And since 1981, she also owned a private practice in Amsterdam, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, solution focused brief therapy, CFBT, solution focused cognitive behavioral therapy, SFCBT, and positive CBT, positive psychology, PP, and positive supervision. She is the author of many international publications on positive CBT, SFBT, SFCBT, PP, and post supervision. She is the founder and international keynote presenter and trainer of solution-focused mediation and conflict management. Okay, I'll just make it short that our speaker, Professor Frederick Barnick, she is very famous in cognitive behavioral therapy and conflict solution management. In short, I just make it that, no? Conflict solution management, and she also supervising that leadership and focus. Okay. She also a trainer on solution focus coaching and solution focus leaderships. And that's what I'll say. She's no need to say anymore. She's already famous. I don't know. Everyone knows it. That if you want, you can visit her website. Her website is that her website carries her name, frederickbunning.com. This is very easy. After we finish it, that if you have any queries, you can send your questions and she will send you that answer. And because we wanted to hear more from her, and because of that, I'll not lengthen that my introduction. It's no need her introduction about her because she's already famous, as already said that. Thank you so much, our Honorable Vice Chancellor is giving us opportunity to have you, ma'am. So now you can start your lectures. We are eagerly waiting our lecture. Thank you so much, ma'am. Most welcome in our university. On behalf of the university and on behalf of the Department of Clinical Psychology, we are really, really happy to have you and to see you. I personally very happy that going to able to hear again your lecture, ma'am. I'm really thankful. Thank you so much, ma'am. So we are waiting our lecture, ma'am.
Wow, what a great introduction. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And also thank you for inviting me to do this webinar today on practicing positive CBT.
It's our pleasure, ma'am.
Yes, and I understood from our earlier talk that, well, we met in Toronto a couple of years ago. And yes. You read my books and you're yourself very well known into the positive psychology movement. Yes, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So thank you very much, and also thank you very much for, well, I was invited to come to India, to Goa in November for the University of Delhi and for a conference, but because of the COVID-19, everything
that's nice.
Has been postponed. So I hope to visit your country, your beautiful country.
Very good. Yeah,
next year again.
Yes. We'll look forward now.
Yeah, okay.
Time together again. So you can visit our university also, ma'am, if you could spare time. Kindly visit our university also. So we'll host.
I'll think about it. Yeah, I'll think about it. Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation.
We are here to welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. I really like India. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Nice to hear from us.
Sure. So, well, let's start the webinar. The webinar, which will be about positive CBT. Well, you already explained who I am, so I don't think I have to add anything to that. Thank you very much for that. So let's just start. And I'll talk you through the slides, which if you want, at the end, you can ask me some questions, not in this webinar, because I don't think I have the time to do so.
Yes, ma'am.
You can ask any question you want.
Yeah, as much as you want, you can extend that. It would be very precious for us.
And the other thing is that I can send you a PDF of my presentation later on.
That would be nice. That would be nice, ma'am.
Might put on your
good helping for the department.
Yeah, your university website if you want.
Yeah, for the university.
Sure.
So you can say.
So here we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, just a little word about me. You already could see that I'm from the Netherlands, and the Netherlands and the capital of the Netherlands, which is Amsterdam. And the Netherlands is famous for, well, one thing it's really famous for, and that's because that are the tulips. So as you can see here, we got lots of tulips, and everybody from China to the States, to everybody comes to see our beautiful tulips. This is the place I live. It's called Amsterdam. It's a World Heritage Site, which shows from all the very old houses and the canals, just to give you an impression where we are and what we'll do today. Just to give you a short overview, I'll start with a positive CBT application. I'll explain this in more detail just a little bit later on. We'll talk about what CBT is for those of you who want to have a reminder of what is CBT, and then we go on to what is positive CBT, because that's of course in many respects different from what I call traditional CBT. It's not negative CBT, but I call it traditional CBT. So then on how to practice positive CBT, just a quick overview on actually how do you do it. A changing role of a therapist when you use positive CBT. The reason why I developed my model on positive CBT, because I was not that very pleased with traditional CBT. The research we did at one of the universities on the comparison between positive and traditional CBT, one of the universities in Holland, or the Netherlands, I should say. The conclusion and the takeaway for today. And like I said before, if you have any questions, please feel free to send them to this email address, solutions@frederikebanning.com. Well, here we go. We start with an application. So just for yourself, take a little time, just a couple of minutes. And these are also the questions I ask my clients. I don't like talking about patients. I prefer the term clients. Just for yourself, if this would have been a live event, I would have said, okay, you can do this in pairs or in 3 or 4 people. But just for yourself, just think of yourself, what did you do so far today that's good for you? And this may be big things and small things like taking some rest. It might take having a healthy lunch. It might be a nice talk you had with somebody. What did you do so far today that's good for you? And the second question is, what else did you do so far today that's good for you? Just stretching it a little bit further. What else did you do so far today that's good for you? And just take your time to think of something small or something a little bit bigger that you did so far that's good for you. And the last question is, what? Oh, sorry. I go too fast. Back again. Here we are again. This one. And what else? So it's about 3 things that you did so far today that are good for you. What else? Just take a little time to think, what else did I do today so far that's good? That's good for me. Okay, and asking yourself or asking your client what they did so far today that's good for them is basically, it's different from asking what did you do so far today that is not good for you, or what else did you do so far today that is not good for you, and what else. You would get more negative emotions in the room instead of positive emotions, but then many clients and also many therapists still think that psychotherapy is only meant to talk about things that people or clients have done that's not good for them. So we should be aware that there's also another side to the coin, to get more balance in your conversations when you talk with clients, by also asking them, what did you do so far today that's good for you, and what else, and what else. And suppose your client cannot come up with 3 good things that they did so far today, you might ask them, so what are you going to do the rest of the day? Right, the things that are good for you. Just to balance it out by talking about problems and talking about what they probably will come up with, the things that they did so far today that are not good for them. And I'm not sure if you are familiar with the research done by Roy Baumeister and his colleagues. Research that shows that bad is stronger than good. They wrote an article, Bad is Stronger Than Good. You can find it on the internet. And it shows that we all have the tendency to look more at the things that are not good for us than to look at the things that are good for us. So bad is stronger than good. The ratio actually being 7-to-1. So that means that we are 7 more times likely to look at what's wrong than actually to look at what's right. And bad is stronger than good. This goes for all of us. It's, let's say, in our DNA, because you want to keep away from danger, of course, etc., etc. So we all have the tendency to look at what's bad instead of what's good. So you really have to invite yourself or your clients to look the other way. All right. Well, just a quick reminder, what is CBT? What is, let's say, traditional, novel cognitive behavioral therapy? The application of methods and findings from experimental psychology, learning principles. I'm sure you've heard about classical conditioning, the Pavlov, the dogs of the salivation of the dogs of Pavlov, and the operant conditioning, the doves of Skinner and their experiments. And CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, integrates the cognitive restructuring approach of the cognitive therapy, that's one part, with behavioral modification of behavioral therapy. So it's about cognitions and it's about behavior. And what I call traditional CBT, you could say problem-focused CBT, some people call it negative CBT, is mainly about what's wrong here and how do you repair this. We'll come back to that later. And here you can see it, what's wrong with you or what's right with you. Right. And well, it's good to know that until recently, positivity was considered a byproduct of symptoms reduction. You know, we're only here to repair what's wrong, or a luxury that clinicians could not afford. Nobody was looking at positivity. It was only how to get clients out of the minuses. Nobody looked at how do you get clients or yourself in the pluses. And recovery in psychiatry did not include the restoration or the achievement of clients' well-being and positive functioning. The causality was how do you make miserable people less miserable? That was what psychology and also traditional CBT was about. And the American Psychological Association, they combined the two. They said the field of clinical psychology integrates science, theory, practice to understand, predict and alleviate maladjustment, disability and discomfort, as well as, so that's just one part, how to get people out of the minuses, as well as to promote human adaptation, adjustment and personal development, personal growth. And that's the other side, how to get people in the pluses. But this is only recent discovery, because the positive psychology started in late 90s. So that's only about, well, almost the same age as your university, let's say. It started late 90s, early 20th century. So what is positive CBT? We also call it the fourth wave of CBT. Well, it's a relatively new approach through the practice of traditional CBT. It's not only about pathology, on what's wrong with clients and on repairing what's worse, but first and foremost on strengths, what's right with them, and on creating what's best. The focus is different. You can say, and some trainees and some supervisors say to me, okay, you really need to have a different mindset. It's a different focus. It's not merely on reducing the stress, but first and foremost on building success. And maybe you've heard of Dr. Paul Gilbert. He's an English professor from the UK on compassion-focused therapy. You might have heard, and he wrote about my book, Practicing Positive CBT. It captures the essential importance of building on positive feelings, motives, imagery, memories, and behaviors. It changes what we focus on and how we work in helping clients change. It's a different focus. It's a positive focus on strengths, on solutions, instead of clients' weaknesses, of deficits, and what's wrong with them. Well, I'll go. Traditional CBT is the cause and effect model. It's a medical model. The medical model, which is a very nice model, we call that the analysis paradigm. It's about what's wrong here, how come things went wrong, and how do we repair what's wrong. It's a reductionist model, and we call this the analysis paradigm. I won't bother you with everything. I'll just show you the difference with positive CBT. That's another paradigm, working from another paradigm. We call that the synthesis paradigm. It's future focused. It's about designing an outcome that wasn't there before. It's about building what's right. In the philosophy of science, there are two ways to make the world understandable. It's these two paradigms. It's the analysis paradigm and it's the synthesis paradigm. So positive CBT works from a different paradigm. It's future focused. It looks at the best outcome here. Well, I won't go into all this, but well, if you're interested, you might look all these things up. So basically, I found some Indian pictures here. Basically, it's, do you want to be a repairman as a CBT therapist, or as a psychologist or psychiatrist, or would you rather be an architect? Repairing what's wrong or building what's right. That's the difference. That's the different focus. Well, two sources that are combined within the CBT framework, the positive psychology and the solution-focused brief therapy. And I'll just go into them very shortly. Positive psychology, I'm sure you've heard of that, has a focus on what's wrong with people and on what's right with them. And basically, they also have a focus on strengths. So they're not only concerned with making miserable people less miserable, but also how to get people in the pluses, and not only how you get them out of the minuses. And solution focus is a bit different. It has a focus on everything that works in a client's life. And the basic things from solution focus is, if it works, and especially if it works better, do more of it. And if it doesn't work, stop and do something else. That's simple. It's rather simple, but to have a consequent positive focus in your conversations is not always very easy. So positive psychology. The current, let's say, the current model in positive psychology right now is called the PERMA model, a new theory of well-being by Martin Seligman, one of the founders of the positive psychology movement. And it says, okay, there are 5 pillars. Positive emotion is one, engagement is one, positive relationships is one, meaning in life is one, and accomplishment is one. And the theory is that the higher you score on all 5 pillars, the more well-being you will experience. The less you score on all 5 pillars, the less well-being you will experience. And I wrote a book, some books on this. And if you Google, you can find much more. And also in the books by Martin Seligman, you can find a lot more. The 6th pillar is now added. The 6th pillar is not in this model, but it's called vitality as a possible 6th pillar. And basically what positive psychology does is it's a strength approach. And they developed, Peterson, one of the co-founders of positive psychology, they developed a classification of character strengths as opposed to the existing classification system of mental disorders, DSM-5. And you can find the survey of character strengths. The VIA means values in action, survey of character strengths, at this American website. And but you can, I'm sure you can fill in the the survey in many different languages. So I didn't look, but I'm sure you can also fill it in your language. And it's a classification system. So if you're doing a diagnosis, instead of only looking at what's wrong with people and looking at mental disorders and the DSM-5 and using that classification system, you might as well balance that out by also asking your clients to fill in the survey of character strengths. Looking at 24 character strengths, everybody has them, but of course in the different orders. And the nice thing about this is if you fill it in, you get the top 5 of your signature character strengths. One of my 5 signature character strengths, if I follow this survey, is being grateful. And another one is curiosity. So everybody has different character strengths. And it's very nice to ask your clients to fill in this survey and ask them how they can use their top 5 to tackle their problems or to build a new and better life. Solution focus is different. Solution focused, you can see here 1001 solution focused questions, because it's especially the solution questions lie at the heart of the solution focused method. It's a very goal-oriented approach. It is finding what works and do more of it. It looks at positive differences and how positive differences work. And well, it's a proven, simple and effective approach to change. And it's used now to psychotherapy, to coaching, management, leadership, conflict management, education, in sports, etc., etc. And I'm just going to show you a little film, about 2 minutes, of an animation which was done by a Greek in Athens, a Greek coaching bureau, where you can see how solution focus works.
Atomwave presents turning problems into solutions.
If people were cars, fixing people problems would be easy. Check the engine, find the cause of the trouble, replace the faulty part, and move on. But people are not machines. Focusing on problems and their causes is a great way of getting cars back on the road, but it's not much use when you're trying to help people move forward. Take Alex. He wants to step up to a higher management role, but he lacks confidence. Some people might try to help Alex by asking why he feels this way. Perhaps the answer lies in his past.
When I was a child, a teacher humiliated me in front of the class.
Or,
the other kids teased me.
But concentrating on the causes of his problem soon leaves Alex buried under an avalanche of painful memories. He knows why he lacks confidence, but nothing in his life has changed. He still feels just the same. Focusing on problems turns you into an expert in what's wrong. To become an expert in what's right, you have to start thinking about solutions. A helpful question to Alex would be, let's just suppose that something happened and you had all the confidence you needed. What would you be doing differently?
I'd have the courage to be honest with my team when giving appraisals. I'd be able to say what I really think in meetings. I'd be speaking at conferences and enjoying it.
Now that Alex has a picture of how he'd like to be, he has something to work towards. This novel way of turning things upside down is called the solutions focus. Instead of emphasizing what's wrong, why didn't you meet this month's sales target? Solutions talk encourages people to think about what's right. Well done for selling 5 insurance policies last month. How did you manage that? What did you do? People have all the resources they need to make their solutions happen. Some of those resources are inside them, like previous experiences, and others lie within easy reach, like support from other people. It's all about building on success. If something works, do more of it. And if something isn't working, do something different.
So what was this solution focused question in the middle? Do you remember which question this lady was asking? to her client in coaching? Yeah. It's about, she said, so suppose something would happen, you would have all the confidence you needed. What would you be doing differently? What would you be doing differently? So it's about the positive differences. What would be different? What will be different in your life? So in solution focus, they ask people to describe their preferred future, as they call it, the new and better life. What will you be doing differently? What else will you be doing differently? How will other people notice? How will they react differently to you? And how will you then react differently to them? Those are the questions that you can ask. So to recap, the CBT is added with the positive psychology and the solution-focused brief therapy model. So how to use positive CBT? Well, we already talked about the analysis paradigm, you know, using the medical model, which is replaced by the synthesis paradigm, which is focusing on the preferred outcome, the best outcome. It's not so much on problem solving, it's about building solutions. It's not focusing on what doesn't work, it's focusing on what is working. It's not focusing on what's wrong or weaknesses or deficits, but it's focusing on strengths. That's the positive psychology part. And it's not merely on reducing the stress, but merely on building success. Another basic difference is that in positive CBT, or also the therapist is no longer the only expert in the room. The clients are seen as co-experts. And this takes a lot of weight off the shoulders of especially young therapists who feel very responsible that they should know everything and they should come with the right advice. Clients are co-experts, so you can always ask what their preferred future looks like and what solutions they already tried, what has already been helpful. Problem analysis is no longer necessary because you're working in a future-focused way, so it's not so much on what's wrong here and how come, but it's about goal formulation. It's about, like I said before, designing an outcome that wasn't there before. That's the synthesis paradigm again. And if you ask clients to do some homework and do some self-monitoring and make some functional behavior analysis of what's going on, you ask them to do the self-monitoring, not of the problem, but of exceptions to the problems. The times that things were just a little bit better. I'll come back to that a little bit later. And then there's, of course, the last thing. The other thing is, what do you pay attention to? Do you pay attention as a therapist to problem talk, or do you pay attention as much as possible to strengths and solutions talk? Because as a therapist, you always have the choice what questions to ask and where you put the focus in your conversations. And as much as possible, I put the focus in my conversations on what their goal is, what their preferred future looks like, when there are already exceptions to the problem, their competencies, etc., etc. That's what we call the difference between problem talk and solutions talk. And here's one client in our research, which I will be talking about later. She said perceiving, perceiving small positive changes or things that are already going well and seeing that these are valuable. That was something I found extremely difficult to do. This was a very depressed client. I really tried to look for these little things. And in the beginning, I just didn't see them. It actually took several sessions before it came easier. People really have to practice using this different mindset and using this different focus. Well, the English book that you know has been translated into some other languages in the meantime, and more translations will be coming up. I don't know if you can see when this book has been published. Well, it's Japan, and maybe you know what kind of language this is. This is called Farsi. This is Iran. This is a bit more easier. I think this is Brazil. It's Portuguese Brazil. This is German, And this is Dutch. This is my language. So, and more translations are probably coming up. Who knows, maybe Indian translation. Well, what is positive CBT? It's about changing cognitions, it's about changing behavior, and it's about changing emotions. And I can't go through all of it, but I'll just pick out a few of them. Focus on what clients want different in the future, change what they are paying attention to, and notice what clients are doing when things are better. But in the book, of course, you can read much more. Focus on what clients want different in the future. It's the goal formulation. And one article I wrote about this with an American coach, and you can find all these articles on my website and download them for free if you want. It's about the solution-focused taxi. And so suppose you are a taxi driver and somebody gets into your taxi. What's the first question you ask? Where to, instead of where from? What's your destination? When can you leave the taxi again? Or like Steve DeShazer, one of the founders of solution-focused brief therapy, used to ask his clients, how do we know we can stop meeting like this? What should be better in your life? How would you like your life to look like? So I'm not necessary here anymore. Where to instead of where from? And suppose somebody says, I don't know. Somebody gets into your taxi, you're the taxi driver again, and you ask him, where do you want to go to? And that person would say, I don't know. I'm sure you will not start driving anyway in the hope that maybe at one point something might happen. You probably would say, okay, so suppose you did know, or who else might know? Who else might be helpful here? And the last thing is, suppose somebody gets into your taxi, you're the taxi driver again, you ask, okay, where to? And he says, not the airport. What do you do being the taxi driver? You'll probably ask, where do you want to go to? So the goal should be stated in positive terms, as concrete as possible and realistic as possible, of course. Talking about exceptions, because that's one of the other things that is important in changing what clients are paying attention to, because like I said, bad is stronger than good in the beginning. So that means that our clients are more inclined to look at what's not going right instead of what is going right. So what are exceptions? That are those experiences when the problem might have been expected to occur, but somehow did not. And Steve DeShazer, one of the founders of solution-focused brief therapy, said, for the client, the problem is seen as primary. He's focusing on the problem because he says, yeah, that's why I'm here. That's why I come to you. And exceptions, if seen at all, are seen as secondary. And for therapists, and especially for therapists working in a solution-focused way, the exceptions are seen as primary. And interventions are meant to help clients make a similar inversion, which will lead to the development of a solution. So more attention, we pay much more attention to exceptions than to problems, basically. And in the model of positive CBT, the self-monitoring is not about problems, but it's the diary of better moments. It's the exceptions that we're after. That is the exceptions that we want to know more about. How did you do that? How did you make that happen? What did you do differently at those better moments? And questions to find the exceptions. When was the problem less? Even just a little bit. When was the problem not a problem? Even for a little while, maybe. When was the problem present, but you succeeded in coping better? Even just a little bit. Or when was there a glimpse of what you like to have instead of the problem, your preferred future, your goal? When did you already see a glimpse of what you want to see more of? These are the exceptions, and this is, let's say, the homework suggestions belonging to the positive CBT model. There are other suggestions, but this is the basic homework suggestion in positive CBT, the diary of the better moments. So every day, at the end of the day or during the day, clients they write in their diary of better moments, looking for the exceptions and what was different about those moments and what did they do differently to make that happen, positive differences. But CBT is using functional behavior assessments, the antecedents, behavior consequences, and these are also about exceptions. So when was there an exception? What did you notice you were doing or thinking or feeling differently? And what consequences did you notice? The consequences for yourself, of course, consequences positive and maybe also negative ones, but most of the times it's about positive consequences, of course. Well, some words about the role of the positive CBT therapist. So we all know what you pay attention to grows. You see the same thing here, water the flowers, not the weeds. I would say that traditional psychotherapies, they water the weeds much more than they water the flowers. And this is also what positive psychology does and also what positive CBT does. Water the flowers, not the weeds. And this positive focus in CBT, well, we have the difference between problem talk and solutions or strengths talk. Problem talk, well, this is what CBT does. It focuses on problems, what clients do not want, causes, negative emotions, disadvantages, deficits, failures, and their undesired or feared future. And I'm sure you all know you cannot help people with what they do not want. You can only help people with what they do want. Negative emotions, there's much research, especially done within the Barbara Fredrickson, one of the researchers in the positive psychology movement. And it shows that negative emotions, the consequence of lots of negative emotions is that there's less creativity, less flexibility, less empathy, and less resilience. Whereas strengths and solutions talk focuses on what clients want to have instead of their problems. Exceptions, we talked about the exceptions, the positive emotions that go along with that, the advantages, their strengths, their successes, and their preferred future. And as we know, also by the research of Barbara Fredrickson, mainly positive emotions, they create more creativity, flexibility, empathy, and more resilience. So as much as possible, I want to it's my job as a therapist, a positive CBT therapist, to get positive emotions in the room by asking about the preferred future, by asking about competencies, by asking about exceptions to the problem, etc., etc. This is a client. Now I'm really building the life that I want. She's also a client from our research. And so you may ask, so why go through all the hassle of developing this model of positive CBT? Well, that's because I was not very pleased with how traditional CBT was doing, because I think more clients should be able to benefit from therapy. Still 40% doesn't. And within psychotherapy, there are very high dropout rates. And what's really, I think, something we should be ashamed about is that in the treatment of depression, in the last 30 years, there has been no progress at all. I think we should really be ashamed of that. And because that means that depression is the #1 mental disorder in the world. So that means that so many of our clients, they don't get the treatment that might help them. Well, then there are high relapse rates. Look at depression, look at addictions. So the long-term outcomes might be improved. Then there's an ethical issue, use of the least demanding interventions. You know, exposure, for instance, is quite a demanding intervention for clients. You know, go through in your head or in real life, go back to what happened to you, or go back to the place where the bad thing happens to you. And I think we should look for the least demanding interventions instead of the most demanding interventions. EMDR is already better, of course, than the mere exposure techniques. Well, I think clients should be seen as co-experts. Well, these are modern times, so instead of therapists being the only, or doctors being the only expert in the room, I think we should see clients much more as co-experts than we actually do. Well, then there's lots of research that shows that when you use this positive focus, there's less burnout amongst professionals, which is quite understandable because you're talking about what people do want and how far they already came and what might be next steps, etc., etc. And just a little word about the research we did at Maastricht University on positive CBT. This is the research we did. It's about positive CBT in the treatment of depression, a randomized order within subject comparison. So we made a comparison with traditional cognitive therapy together with Nicole Geschwind, Professor Arnold Arns, and Professor Frank Peters, all from the university in Maastricht, which is in the south of Holland. And the highlights of this quantitative research, the things that we found are that positive CBT resulted in stronger reduction of depression than traditional CBT did during the second phase of treatment. I'll just talk about the design a little bit later on. Positive CBT was associated with more clinically significant change than traditional CBT. There was dropout was significantly lower when starting with positive CBT than with traditional CBT. And like I just said, dropout rates are very high in CBT, also in traditional CBT, and clients all preferred positive CBT. And just to show you a little bit about the research, the design that we used, this design, you see here session 1 to 8 and then 8 to 16. So, and here you see this is depression scale. So what we did is half of the clients received 8 sessions of traditional CBT and then 8 sessions of positive CBT, and the other half of the clients, or 50 clients, received first 8 sessions positive CBT and then 8 sessions of traditional CBT. And this had to do with the fact that it's very hard to get a very large amount of clients to do research using other models. So this is the model that we use. And what you can see then is in the first 8 sessions, both traditional CBT and positive CBT did almost the same. So they were both working. But then when you look at the second phase, so session 8 till 16, then you see that if people first got positive CBT and then switched over to traditional CBT, yeah, that's the line, nothing happened anymore. Basically, all these people said, we don't want this. We don't want traditional CBT anymore. We want to go on with positive CBT. It didn't add anything. Whereas in the other way, when people started out with 8 sessions of traditional CBT and then was followed up by 8 sessions of positive CBT, you saw that the depression scales got lower. So of course we have to replicate this, and this was only in the study of major depressive disorders, but now it's done for other diagnoses as well. The qualitative research, that's another article. It's an advanced online publication. You can already look at it, but it says if positivity pays off, clients' perspectives on positive compared to traditional cognitive behavioral therapy for depression. Basically, the first 12 clients of the research that I showed you were interviewed by Bosgraaf, the guy whose name is second here. And well, that's very nice because they are very enthusiastic, might be a bit cynical to start with, but they all switched to wanting positive CBT more than they wanted traditional CBT. And this is a new book that will be out by the end of the year. It's Positive CBT, the individual and the group treatment protocols, which will be published by Hooggever Publisher by the end of this year. It's a translation of our Dutch book. And there you can find the individual 8-session protocol and the group treatment 8-session protocol for positive CBT. And the group treatment protocol I made together with a colleague from Iran, from Tehran University. So let's just look at ourselves for a moment. This is what Professor Philip Raas from Belgium is saying about CBT. It should be CBT, but it should be positive CBT is not only an important different perspective for clients, but also for ourselves as therapists, as an antidote to burnout and negativity. So it should be positive CBT. Sorry, I misspelled that over there. So the conclusion. Positivity pays off for clients and for therapists. Less burnout, remember, less burnout when you have this positive focus in your work. And I'm sure that, like all our colleagues, if you end the day and you go home, you want to have energy left, you know, to do nice things, to do things with your kids, or go and do some sports or whatever, instead of being kind of burnt out and knocked out because you've been listening to clients all day who are only telling you what's wrong in their lives and looking at you as being the only expert in the room. So what I would like you to do now is just for a minute or two is think of 3 things or ideas which you could put to use in your work or your study or your private life, which would tell you that this webinar has been worth your time and energy. So just take a minute, just for yourself, or 2 minutes, to think about three things or ideas which you take away from today, just for yourself.
We stop it like that. Hello?
People are taking their time to think of 3 things they take away from today. Okay, so I'm sure you found three things, and if maybe you didn't yet find 3 things, you might do so at a later moment. So these are my English books. Let's see. I thought I could do them all in once. This is a new book, Practicing Positive Psychiatry, which I just wrote with a professor of psychiatry, also at Maastricht University, and we just translated the book into English. It was written in Dutch, and this will be out in September, I think, because also in psychiatry and also for people with severe mental disorders, positive psychiatry, also using positive psychology, also using solution-focused grief therapy, also using the restoration methods can be very useful also for people with severe mental disorders. So thank you. I forgot. I'll do this again. Because I was too quick.
Thank you, madam. Very nice webinar. It's more than 505 people registered are listening to your lecture, and many more might be online.
Wow, that's great.
505
Thank you very
people
much for organizing.
Directly listening, and some more people might have been through YouTube. Actually, there are many participants are there.
Sure, thank you very much.
Actually, there are many questions. You would like to answer them only through email, no?
Yeah, sure. They can email me. That's okay. Sure.
Because there are many questions. If you would like to take few questions, there are 10 to 11 questions are there. You can take 1 or 2 questions, I think, better.
Yeah, because I think we run out of time almost. So I think I would prefer if and invite you to send your questions through email, and I'll just answer.
Okay.
them.
Okay, we'll all the participants are requested to write your queries through email to madam, or
Sure.
you can send email to us. We will send to madam for answering. Tomorrow, madam will be joining in another webinar. You can
Sure.
Those questions can be clarified tomorrow if it is there.
Yeah, I don't have the time to do all that today because I'm not sure. I'll have a look at the questions and see if I can. Because I have
no,
to
you can just type in the Google, madam, email will come. Dr. Frederick Banning email will come. All of you who are having doubts, you can send email to Madam Bannick, and you can get tomorrow all those questions clarifications. Because she has to go today, she has to go for some urgent work. Is it okay to everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Jokai, baby.
Yes, yeah. Fakir. Ma'am,
Yes,
this is my
just
co-host.
Madam wants to go complete formal vote of thanks. No, just
okay, sir. I'll give a brief vote of thanks. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K.R.S. Siva Rao, our valued invited participants, good evening. It's an honor to propose a vote of thanks. So on behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for his endless support and encouragement. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. And I would also like to thank our speaker, Dr. Frederick Bannick. We are honored, ma'am, to have you with us today. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and insights on a very important topic, which is very relevant today. So we look forward also to more lectures with you in the future. And I would also like to thank all the participants for being with us today. And it's been a great pleasure. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Bye
yes,
today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Meet you again tomorrow.
Yeah, we see each other tomorrow.
Yeah.
On the subject of positive supervision.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That would be very nice. Another nice topic you have selected.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
anh lòng nó
Anh chụp cái
nó
lên.
nó 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 nó